Well, we finally know why Secretary of War Pete Hegseth called in the generals to a big old meeting on Tuesday to complain about the woke.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done.
So basically, no women, no trans people, fat people, or people with beards in the U.S. military. Now, hold on. You might not realize it, but the beard thing is likely to keep Sikhs and Muslims out of the armed forces. Look, in the last 20 years, they were actually given religious exemptions to wear their beards and turbans in uniform. It's, again, part of their religion. Okay. In fact, as late as January of 2017, there was actually a lawsuit that was won under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. You know, the thing that Republicans were pushing. Yeah, it turns out other religions could use it as well. And so there are people that sued that were in the military in order to be able to wear their religious garb. Again, the beards and the turbans, and as well as burqas and hijabs, right? Military regulations were changed to allow for the wearing of these things by religious individuals. Now, the ruling, of course, will stipulate that the regulations can require that beards must be worn at certain lengths and must not interfere with operations, which, again, it does make sense, right? But the no more beardos thing obviously targeted towards those communities, okay? It's not like Pete Hegseth, like, has a deep respect for Islam or Middle Eastern culture, okay? And no, it's freaking Pete Hegseth. Okay, not only that, but again, he also talked about climate change. I think that's important. And I know there's a lot of people that gloss over that, but remember, the U.S. military is actually the biggest polluter on the planet. Yeah, they consume more oil and produce more greenhouse gases than any other institution in the entire world. If the U.S. military were considered to be a country, it certainly is funded well enough for it, right? It would rank among the world's largest emitters. Again, we spend more on our military every year than the GDP of many small countries. No one even comes close. But anyway, he dragged every high-ranking general out in person, which is, again, something that he could have done in a Zoom call or something, to basically hear him do a speech and rail against woke. That's pretty much it.
The wokers.
The only war that Pete Hegseth really wants to fight is a culture war. And that's why he was hired. That's why that's why Donald Trump picked him. Oh, he's on Fox News and he does the culture war stuff. I love that. Let's do that. And along those lines, by the way, Hegseth also said he was ordering reforms at the Pentagon, the Inspector General's office, and both military and civilian equal opportunity offices to, quote unquote, liberate commanders and NCOs from what he calls a weaponized process that put complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. what did he mean by that? What changes is he making? Well, basically, if you have a complaint about your higher up, like, for example, you were sexually harassed by your commander, or, somebody called you a racial slur or something. Well, previously, you could report those things anonymously so that you do not get singled out by that commander. That's a big change for holding people accountable, right? Hegseth has overturned that. Now you are no longer able to remain anonymous to your superiors, the ones that you were complaining about, when you were complaining about sexual harassment or racial discrimination. That is not good. That is a way, I believe, to try to force women and minorities out of the military, saying, we will not protect you. We will not help you at all. We will help your oppressors. That's what we'll do. The people who make, racial slurs against you or sexually harass you, we're going to protect those people and not you and not the victim. See, this is Pete Hegseth's military. This is all very, very clear to me, okay? This man wants a whites-only military to create a white-only country. That's it. That's it. I think this is white supremacy. Plain and simple. And there it is. It's right in front of you. Okay, if you don't want to see it, it's because you don't want to see it. Maybe because you want the same thing. Okay, in his book, he wrote that all the diversity recruiting messages made certain kids, white kids, feel like they're not wanted. Really? Because generally, a lot of people, and I'll get to the stats on that, there's a lot of young people that are like not at all interested in the military. Yeah. All these rules that he is laying down now and all the changes that he's making is not going to boost combat effectiveness. We are already incredibly effective, especially considering how a lot of our warfare is autonomous, drones. We don't fight wars like we did back in the 1930s, okay? There is a lot of technology that we field on the battlefield that is extremely lethal and extremely effective. We're not out there with lines and columns of soldiers, okay, that are lining up to shoot. We're not doing that anymore, okay? No, again, all of these engagements, conventional warfare has changed significantly. But Trump doesn't understand that. And neither does Pete Hegseth, apparently. Because this is what they're trying to go back to, instead of embracing the technologies of the future. And again, it doesn't really take someone a whole lot of physical ability to pilot a drone from an office, an air-conditioned office, right? I'm just saying, seems like he wants to go back to those good old days. We're men, and war fighters getting out there and personally up close and personal with their guns right in the face of the enemy. Okay. But look, I think his goal, again, is to get minorities and women to voluntarily leave the military. He's not banning them, but it's to make the conditions to where they don't want to stay. And again, women, he said he doesn't believe that they should be in combat roles. A lot of his Republican colleagues agree with him on that. In his book, he said that women have performed well in dangerous supporting roles during warfare, but that women in the infantry, women in combat on purpose is another story. He adds that they just cannot physically meet the same standards as men. Now, he had also claimed that the military had to lower their standards for women, which isn't exactly true. In 2022, the Army did lower their standards for everyone, for women and older men. So that only applies, though, to the annual physical fitness exams, not for everything. The Army and all the branches still actually require everyone, and specifically women, to pass strict physical fitness tests if they want to take on the most physically challenging specialty jobs. Like, for example, if they're going for to be an Army Ranger or a Green Beret. So those standards were not lowered at all. And look, that's probably the reason that there's not a lot of women in those roles. Okay, those rigorous physical requirements. Okay, but there are thousands of women that serve in positions that were male only until around 10 years ago. But apparently, that's done too under Hegseth. Okay, so now that gets me to wonder then these changes. What are they going to do with recruitment? Now, look, I'm going to be honest, like over the past couple of years, recruitment has actually increased. 2024 and 2025. I know Trump is trying to take credit for that, but it actually started before the election, before his term. All the branches so far have hit their targets. And look, still, there are a lot of young people that currently are not interested in joining up. Surveys from 2024 showed that about 87% of young people aged 16 to 21, were unlikely to consider even enlisting. And as the birth rate goes down, I think that those numbers are going to get worse. Not only that, but around 77% of youth, 17 to 24, can't even qualify for military service without any kind of waiver for issues like weight, drug abuse, or mental health. The types of waivers that Hegseth just said he was going to get rid of. You know, no fat people, no beardos, nothing like that. No. So I can't really see the uptick in enlistment increasing or being sustainable or whatever, unless the economy tanks and the military becomes the only way to make a living in this country. But I'm sure that will never happen. Right? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.